welcome back to... Oh, Jesus, that was loud. Welcome back to the Creative Process Podcast with myself, Jared Klein. Today, on episode 31, we're going to be talking about something that I honestly dreaded as a starting freelance designer and, starting to actually, get clients and get, be able to price my own work rather than, working for a wage or for a salary that was dictated, by an employer. So that is what we are going to be talking about today. Probably going to be a little bit of a shorter episode because I have a pretty, I don't want to say easy type of opinion on it because it has come with experience and everything like that. But it's a very open-ended answer to pricing, and it's an open-ended solution to pricing and everything like that. But first, I want to say thank you for coming out today to episode 31. I hope you enjoyed episode 30 with Matt Desmond. If you have not listened to episode 30 yet, go listen to episode 30. It was an awesome one. But you'll see me looking over here because I have my and my whole face will change. But I have my old pricing stuff, like my old pricing list up here. I was just looking at it and looking back at this, it's like it's very refreshing to see how far I've come when it comes to knowing what my work is worth and, trusting in my ability to know what my work is worth. But I'll come right out and say it, that pricing is honestly one of the hardest things I've had to attack as a designer. When I first started diving into freelance and everything like that, that was like my main question. I could get a client here and there, but diving into the whole pricing structure and deciding what I should and should not charge, how much I think I'm worth. That's another episode that I've talked about, that we've talked about on here. But, when I started thinking about those things, I didn't really know what to price that. So I, obviously went to ask friends, and everything varied. It varied from, very little to where I knew right from the jump I wasn't wanting to charge that little. And then it also ranged on the super high end. And I was like, well, I don't think I'm as good as them. How can I charge that much and be okay with it? But really it comes down to how much, you think you're worth. So in the beginning, I charged a little bit less. I think that's, the natural progression of everything. And so I charged a little less and started getting used to charging that and becoming more confident in when I'm, when you're negotiating with a client or when you're talking with a client and they ask for prices. I became a lot more confident when talking about those things, and when invoicing and everything, I was able to back myself up and be able to rationalize that price, whether or not, the client thought it was worth it or not. I was able to give a confident explanation on why I think, that service or what I'm doing and my services is worth the amount that I was charging. So yeah, now it's more or less along the lines, and I've watched a video from the Future Academy, or it may have just been the Future, but Chris Do, he has a video. I'll make sure to link it down below. But he has a video where, they mainly talk about branding and everything like that, where that's usually the upper echelon of pricing when it comes to graphic design, branding projects and whole branding overhauls and stuff like that. That's where a lot of money is made in graphic design and in freelance. But the video, I took it out of within context, but applied it to what I offer as a graphic designer. And the video basically sums up into two things that I kind of got out of it. One was the value of the project for the client. Basically, I'll kind of go into what I do, right? So I mainly work within social media and marketing. if I develop something for a social media platform or, something along those lines that attributes to marketing for a brand that is contacting me, that is something that is going to be, I consider that it's something that's going to be seen, by the audience and also by people outside of their initial audience. I also consider that, it is going to be, it is, a front-facing representation of what their brand is and what their brand offers. It is, it's also something that, depending on where their audience is, let's say on today's age, right? Today's age, I've had a couple clients where their main audience is on social media. So you are marketing directly to your easily accessible primary audience on social media. So then that is also going to be considered into the pricing of things. That's where I kind of started thinking, what is this project going to be used for? Roughly, how many people are going to be seeing this? I do some research on the back end of a client that I'm working with, and being able to compare, post traction and everything like that. Very seldom do I work on a consistent either hourly wage or a consistent, one-time cost. Very, very seldom do I have something that carries over project to project. And secondly, it was, one, it was the value of the project for the client, but also secondly, it's the value of the project for myself. Am I going to, this is it really, I asked myself this question first. I should have started with this first, but am I going to enjoy doing this project? Is this a project that challenges me? Is this a project that I know that the client values a lot, and I know that I am going to be able to put in just as much energy and just as much thought into the project as they are. Those are some things that I consider. And that's mainly how I price things out now. I'm very open and always open for negotiation with people that contact me for commissions or, consulting or, whatever it is. I'm very open with that. I'm always open for the discussion, and I love to rationalize why I think I should get paid X amount, and then, going back and forth. I think honestly that builds the relationship between myself and the clients that I work with and the people that I work with, people and brands and, stuff like that. I think that builds the relationship. Personally, I think, that's probably the way I'll do it, unless I, come across a better method or more of a seamless method for pricing. When it comes to, on the flip side, let's talk about static pricing or consistent pricing. I have this one service. Let's say you do, for the sports people out here, you do an edit that people post on their social media, and it's around like a topic and it connects to the caption that's there, right? There's no consistent brand flow. Maybe there is, maybe there's like a little logo on the top right or anything, but let's say you make an edit, right? You have an X amount, right? That's your consistent amount. X is your consistent amount. That can be determined. How I kind of did it in the past is that can be determined on, one, how long you think, you consistently do that project. Let's say, when I want to just whip something up, depending on what the project is, it takes usually in between an hour and an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours if I go a little bit overboard with a different type of, a different type of effects and different type of techniques and stuff like that. But usually it sticks to about an hour and a half. Then you can consider, okay, how much do I want to get paid hourly for this, right? It can be $20, it can be $50, it can be $250, it can be whatever you think that hour or an hour and a half of your time and your technique and your like expertise and everything is worth. Whatever you think it's worth, that's what you should charge. that it's really, it really comes down to you, when it comes to the static and consistent pricing. Some people will be like, okay, well, if it takes 5 minutes, why are you charging that much? Then you have to go into, how you got to the place you are now. I viewed this as my pricing is directly reflected to how much I value the work that I put in to get to where I am currently, right? I went through 4 years of schooling. I went through, 4 years, and then 6 years before that, 6 or 5 years before that, teaching myself how to design. And then now, the handful of years after school, the 2 years after school, 2.5 years after school, to get to where I am now. That's how I would justify, pricing and everything like that. Obviously, if you're younger in the scene, and if you haven't been designing that much, then, you can consider how long you've been teaching yourself, how much you've been, how much of your time you've been putting into developing your craft. That's really, kind of how I came up with consistent pricing and everything like that. That's really how I like what I've really considered when it comes to pricing. But yeah, I mean, my preferable way is kind of, making sure I talk with the client. Pricing always varies for me. I never can really give a for sure, hey, this is what it's going to cost, until I talk to the client and be able to, know what they want, know what they need, know how it's going to affect them, and everything like that. I always make sure I talk to the client. That's one thing that I'll leave you with here today, is before you set a price, that is, if you don't have consistent pricing, or, those type of things, if you don't have like a consistent one-time fee for X amount, like X service that you offer, if you are, more of a depending on the client type of person, make sure you talk to the client first before you are able to offer up a pricing. Don't even give a range. I wouldn't even give a range. If you give a range, that gives an idea, and it kind of, you don't even know what the project is yet, and you may be limiting yourself. You don't know that. But make sure you talk with the client, have a one-to-one conversation, have a true conversation on what they want, what you offer, how you can achieve what they are looking for, and how much they value the project that they're coming to you to do and to achieve. So yeah, very short one. I told you it was going to be a short one, but pricing is one of the hardest things that I've ever had to kind of consider. Pricing is always changing. Now pricing is really always changing depending on how I value my time and everything like that. If I get busier in my, in my job and in my day-to-day life outside of freelance, then, my pricing is going to go up, because then I'm taking some time out of my busy time to, spend my free time with my wife or with my friends, or, doing things that I want to do. Granted, I do want to do freelance work, but I want to make sure that I'm justifiably compensated for my time. So yes, be confident, know what you want to price and how you want to price. And once you get that down, be confident when you're delivering that. So thank you for listening to episode 31 today. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you have a good rest of your day, week, month, year, whenever you are listening to this. And as always, make sure you tell someone that you love them. All right, we will see you in episode 32. Peace.